Shalom, man. Want to give all praises, glory, and honor be to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's your brothers from the hopeful elect, man. Brother Isaiah coming with Brother Baruch, right? With a lesson titled 6 Questions dedicated to, the holy convocation of the first day of our tabernacles in the 7th month on the 15th day of the Lord. So throughout this lesson, Most High willing, you're edified, and Most High willing, there are things that you think about throughout the lesson that will carry with you over into, your feast season, right? So without further ado, man, again, want to give all praises, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, through the name of His only begotten Son, whose death, burial, and resurrection served as an instrument of salvation for us, right? How we went off from the commandments of the Lord and died, but through the grace of the Lord and through His plan, we would be resurrected and live again, So I want to say shalom to the viewers, the ones who will tune in live, the ones who will watch after the live is over with, right? Shalom to all the brothers out there laboring, putting in their brick for the name of the Lord. Shalom and peace to those who may have the Day of Atonement coming up. Most High willing, it is a day of affliction, right, and repentance. Shalom to those who are in their feast season with us as well. So again, this lesson is centered around tabernacles, right? And I'm going to be asking 6 questions, because these 6 questions will kind of help you get a better understanding of what tabernacles is, and the other questions will give you a better understanding of why, right? Why we keep it. So, without further ado, is it good on the?
It's still good.
Okay, kind. As long as it's good on this, we straight. But the first question I got, right? The first question I want to answer is who, right? Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those are the 6 questions that we're going to be asking, right? So the first question is who? Who is supposed to be keeping, right, tabernacles? Or who is this holy day dedicated unto? Let's get the first precept in Leviticus chapter 23.
This is the book of Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 133. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. On the first day shall be an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Con. Right. Go through verse 36.
Verse 36, 7 days shall ye offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein.
So, the first question, we already answered it, man, right here in Leviticus chapter 23, where you can find the holy days of the Lord, right? The who, right? It says, speak unto the children of Israel, right? So, this holy day was established with the children of Israel in specific, right? Now, the next question we have is what, right? For what purpose? At what time? Well, the next question will be centered around when, right? But what was the purpose of this, right? Let's go to the book of Leviticus, go to chapter 23, just jump down to verse 39, and you're going to read through 43.
Verse 39. Also on the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days.
How many days?
7 days.
Okay.
On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath.
Right. Keep reading.
And ye shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and boughs of thick trees, and willows of brook, and ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days.
Right. Jump to verse 43.
Verse 43, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt.
Right. So the reason, the what, for what purpose, is because the Lord wanted us to remember that He brought us out of the land of Egypt. And when He did, we dwelled in booths for those days, right? Now, when are we supposed to be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles, right? Again, the question is who? Who is this feast dedicated unto, right? Of course, it's to the Lord, but the Lord made this covenant with the children of Israel. All right, what? What was the purpose for it, right? We've answered both of those questions just staying in the same chapter. We're going to stay in the same chapter and answer when, right? When are we supposed to keep this feast? Let's circle back, right, to Leviticus chapter 23, starting at verse 33.
Verse 33, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day.
The what?
The 15th day of this 7th month.
Of what?
Of this 7th month.
So you're supposed to keep every feast in its season, right? So we just read how the Feast of Tabernacles is supposed to begin in the 15th day in the 7th month, right? So that's answering the when. A lot of times when you have questions centered around the Feast of the Lord, the holy days of the Lord, all you got to do sometimes is read the same precept over and over and over again, and it'll give you the understanding that you need. A lot of times, sometimes we overcomplicate how to understand the feast days, understand the holy days, right? But sometimes all you got to do is just read, stay in the same chapter. Sometimes you got to read slow. There are times when you got to go like Isaiah told us to do, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little, right? But to keep it simple, right, for those who may not know why we do this, who may not know why this is supposed to be a holy convocation unto us, right? We just want to stay in the same chapter and answer those questions, right? With one, two, three, four precepts in that same chapter. So that way we don't overcomplicate it for those who are still learning. That way you can get this, and that way you can truly value, that way you can truly understand the value that this day has in the eyes of the Lord, right? Now go back to Leviticus 23 and starting verse 39, because it's going to repeat the same thing.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 1.
We still good on sound and everything, Connor?
Also on the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land.
Wait. Hold on, brother. Read that again. Starting from the top again.
From the top. Also on the 15th day of the 7th month.
In the what?
In the 7th month.
And the 15th day of the 7th month. Again, when? Right? We don't got to go all throughout the Old Testament, all over the world to answer these questions, right? This is simple, especially for those who are beginners, so that way you can have a foundation to build upon, right? We don't got to get on live all the time and give you 100 precepts to answer the question. Sometimes we can just read the same precept over and over again, right? So when should we keep this feast? The 15th day of the 7th month, right? Now, where are we supposed to be keeping this? Now, this is a tricky question. And it's not tricky because I don't know how to answer it. It's tricky because you got to understand the purpose of why we dwelled in these groups. We were quote, so-called homeless people during this time, right? But it is to my understanding that the same verse that we're about to read is the same understanding that we have with this holy day right here. Go to Leviticus 23, start at verse 31. Again, we're still in Leviticus chapter 23, right? We're not leaving the chapter right now. Let's read verse 31.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse number 31. You shall do no manner of work.
Now, this is talking about the Day of Atonement, right? We know this is talking about the Day of Atonement. But why do I want the brother to read this? Finish this out.
It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. And in all your dwellings.
And where?
And in all your dwellings.
So though the Lord was talking about the Day of Atonement when he gave that commandment to Moses, right? I really, truly, personally believe, speaking as a man, that understanding applies, right, to majority of the feast days and holy days that we have listed in the scriptures. Specifically, right, like the dwelling in booths, right, tabernacles. Even though there were 3 times a year that the males were supposed to appear before the Lord. And we know the Lord placed his name in Jerusalem, right? Now, we know we're not in that land, but does that mean now that we should not keep our commandments now? Does that mean that, we don't got to sleep in booths to remember that, right? Does that mean, we should forsake the covenant of the Lord? No, right? In all your dwellings, if possible, right, keep these feasts by any means necessary. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to be, hold that, I do got a precept. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I got to do it, right? Give me the book of Jeremiah chapter 16 and verse 14. One of my favorite verses because, again, it speaks volumes to why we do what we do, because we look forward to something. This is a futuristic lifestyle that we live in. We're not living for the now, we're living for the things that the Lord gonna give us in the back end in the future, right? Of course, he's blessing us and sustaining us during this time, but everything that we do has a purpose and we have an end goal. We trying to, I guess you could say, build up a savings account so that way when it's time to cash out and you retire from this side of life, the Lord got a fat paycheck for us, right? Let's read this in Jeremiah 16 and 14.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16, verse number 14. Therefore, behold, the day is come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt.
There's going to be a day where we're not even going to think about dwelling in booths or the fact that we had to dwell in booths when he brought us out of Egypt. Why is that? Let's keep reading.
It says, but, verse 15, but the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north,
Right.
and from all the lands whither he had driven them.
Right. So the Lord one day is going to gather us together from all the lands He's driven us, right? Which is why, again, it's important to remember, it's important to do these feasts now, because why? One day, there's not going to be a time where we talk about Him delivering us out of Egypt, right? Again, where, the question where, I say the seventh month, the 15th day, wherever you so dwell in all your dwellings, right? Get in that tent, man. Go build you up a tent. Go ahead, out.
Yeah, Khan. Also, to further your point, when they talk about tabernacles in Nehemiah 8,
Dang, that was the precept I was looking for earlier.
in Nehemiah 8, it says they found written in the law that they should publish and proclaim in all their cities and in Jerusalem.
Right.
Meaning they did it also in all the cities they were, not just in Jerusalem.
Right. That was the precept I was looking for earlier. I promise you, that was the exact way it read. That was going to answer the where. Right. But I just couldn't think of it off the top of my head. But hey, that's what you got brothers for. Like it says in Sirach, man, a wise man will hear a word and he'll add unto it. So all praises that the Lord put it on the brother's heart to bring that out. So that also answers the where question. I don't have to, I guess you could say, philosophize, speak as a man, because why? It's already written in Nehemiah. What it says in Romans 15:4, whatsoever things are written aforetime are written for our learning, right? That's an opportunity for us to learn that when they found the book of the law, regardless of where they was, they said, we're going to keep this feast, right? So where? The question's just been answered. Now, let's get into the why, right? Why? Why did he make this feast, right? Let's read it again. Leviticus chapter 23, start at verse number 42 and 43. That's the only two verses you read in that chapter. Again, same chapter, right? Read it again.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 42.
Uh-huh.
And ye shall dwell in booths 7 days.
How many days?
And ye shall dwell in booths 7 days.
Huh.
And all that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths.
Right, keep reading.
That your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths, and when I brought them out of the land of Egypt.
Right. So, again, the same question that was answered for what, right? What was the purpose, right? So that way we can remember that the Lord had us dwell in booths when He brought us out of Egypt, right? It's the same thing for why. That's why we do it, right? But also, let's get Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 6, right? Let's read this.
It's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse number 6.
Uh-huh.
I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage.
Again, it's the same thing. The Lord, we just read in Leviticus that we do it so that way we can remember that the Lord brought us out of Egypt. I'm just getting another witness because, like it tells us in our law, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses is a matter established, right? So we're reading it in Leviticus, we're reading again in Deuteronomy that the Lord brought us out of Egypt, right? Let's read Deuteronomy chapter 7, starting at verse number 9, right? Because we're answering why do we do these things, right? Why do we keep this feast, right? What's the importance, right? We answered those questions. Now let's keep focusing on why.
It's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 7.
Start at verse number 9.
And verse number 9. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, He is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenants and mercy with them that love Him and keep His commandments.
Them that love Him and keep His commandments, keep reading.
To 1,000 generations.
Right, through verse 11.
It says, and repayeth them that hate Him to their face, and to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hated Him. He will repay him to his face.
Right. Keep reading.
Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments, which I command thee this day to do them.
So we do it because, again, the Lord told us to keep the statutes and judgments that He commanded us this day to do them, right? That's why we do it. Again, we read in Jeremiah 16 that we're looking forward to a day that we don't even think about what He did for us in Egypt no more. We think about how He took us from the cities that we're dwelling in right now in the United States of America, right? He took us from the lands of the north and all of the lands that He had driven us. Remember in Deuteronomy 28, it said that we should be removed into every kingdom of the earth. So there's going to be a day where, hey, look, we're going to get out these booths from being these homeless children, right? And we're going to get back to our homeland, and we can dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You know what I'm saying? With the laws of God written on our heart. Everything that we do now is futuristic, right? I'm said it before and I'm going to say it again. Again, it's futuristic because we know that the purpose is for us to get to the kingdom. That's where we want to go. We're not living for right now. We're not living for a Benzo and a Bentley right now, right? It would be cool to have that, but again, the thing that we need to be focused on is how we're going to get that Benz in the kingdom, right? I want to be able to cash a check in the kingdom. And if I can't cash no check in the kingdom, guess what that means? I can't get in. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be on the outside looking in, so that's why we do these things, right? Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 8. Let's start at verse number 1. Deuteronomy 8, start at verse 1.
Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse number 1. All the commandments which I command thee this day shall ye observe to do, that ye may live and multiply.
That you may what?
That ye may live and multiply.
So we keep these commandments so that way we may live and multiply. Right? That's why we got to dwell in these booths, right? Because if we came out of Egypt and we had to be in the wilderness and we told the Lord, no, we're not going to do that. Guess what? We would have died. You know what I'm saying? The Lord would have smote us. Matter of fact, it was because we had a leader like Moses, right? Who spared the Lord's anger from us on behalf of his people. The Lord told us not to have no other gods before him. When Moses went up into the mount for those 40 days, right? Our people begin to wonder, like, where is this man? What's become of him? We have no leader now. Let's build us up a golden calf and worship it. And that should be our God, right? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against the children of Israel. But Moses said, chill, G, chill. I got him. Let me reprove them. Just please spare it. Like, spare the rod this time, right? So we got to remember that everything has a purpose, right? The Lord wanted us to dwell in booths, so we did it. So that way we could live, right? Because it's more than just... I guess you could say the things or the cares of this life, right? Let's read Deuteronomy 8 and 3.
Verse 3. And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doeth not live by bread alone,
right?
Only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doeth man live. So
we want to keep these commandments. We want to dwell in booths so that way we can live, because it's not about bread alone, right? It's not about money alone. It's not about food alone, right? But it's about the words of the Lord. That's what's going to preserve us alive, right? Like a brother asked a question this week at camp, right? And I was thinking about it when I got home. What other way could I have answered that so the conversation could have been more fruitful? And he asked, could we live, or if we didn't have the book, would we know how to live, right? And my question should have been, right, to him, well, it depends on what you consider life, right? What do you consider life to be? Because, see, people think that they're living, right, and they have these possessions, and they have all these, you know what I'm saying, titles and degrees and establishments and whatever. They have a good, quote-unquote, life, right? But if you don't have the word of the Lord, are you truly living? Right? I got a precept real quick. Give me the book of John chapter 6 and verse 63. Right? John 6 and 63. Because, see, sometimes in life we forget the truth of it. To the truth of it all. We forget to look on the spiritual level. Everybody think everything is so physical, right? But physical can come and go. There's got to be a creator behind all these things that created these things, that preserve these things, that make these things happen, that control these spirits, right? And we believe that. That's why, again, Deuteronomy 8 and 2, we keep these commandments so we can live, right? But everybody doesn't have the same understanding of what life is. So let's read this in John 6:63.
John chapter 6 and verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing.
The flesh doesn't profit anything, right? Just because you have a nice house, just because you have a nice car, just because you have a lot of money, you can't take none of that stuff with you to the grave. So it doesn't profit anything. It's not going to change the day you die, right? If anything, those possessions could actually speed up your death. Because you could be giving yourself over to these possessions, right? Now you're a servant unto them. Now when it's time for you to be judged, instead of you having put your trust in the Lord, you put your trust in these possessions. And the Lord said he's going to mock you when your calamity comes, right? He's going to say, okay, put your trust in that Bentley that you got. Put your trust in that Rolls Royce, right? We got to be a people that understand it's the spirit that makes us alive, right? And the Lord is a spirit, right? And they that worship him must worship him in what? Spirit and in truth. John 4:24, free game, right? Or 4:24, free game, right? But let's keep reading John 6:3.
It says, the words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
Right. So the words of the Lord are spirit, because God is a spirit, right? And we got to cleave to his words because they are what?
It says,
They are
spirit and they are life.
Right. The words of the Lord are life everlasting, right? So a couple of things to remember, right? Before we close out, I got a couple of precepts for us to remember, right? Let's get the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse number 4, right? Again, not too many precepts, not all over the place. Just want to keep it more simple. Let's read Deuteronomy 6:4.
It's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse number 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might.
Right. So a lot of people, again, when you go to Christ in Matthew chapter 22, when he's given the 2 great commandments, a lot of people don't understand that literally that was written right here in Deuteronomy 6 and 5. You know, everything has an origin, you know, per se. The thing that which have been is that which shall be. Like I quoted earlier, Romans 15:4, everything written aforetime is written for our learning. That wasn't just for our sake. That was even during the time of Christ. The things that was written aforetime, the things that was written aforetime before Christ came, it was for Christ's learning too. When he was in the synagogue as a young man, he would sit at the feet of the elders, right, to learn wisdom, right? That's in the book of Luke, I want to say chapter 2, right? But nonetheless, again, everything written aforetime written for our learning. So we want to remember that, again, we're supposed to love God with all our heart, soul, and mind. To do that is to keep his commandments, right? Love is action. It's not just a feeling alone, right? It can be associated with a feeling, like you can see, you know what I'm saying? You can see a woman and it just makes your heart warm. You can see a man and it makes you feel safe and protected. You can see people and they can also make you angry, right? That's why it can't just be associated with a feeling. It has to be an action. Love is to say, this is my brother. If my brother got a wife, I'm not going to look at my brother's wife to try to gain her, right? Why? Because I love my brother. It's the same thing with the Lord. We love the Lord, so we're going to keep his commandments. We can't say we love God and we don't do anything that he tells us to do. If we do that, we're deceiving ourselves, right? Because these people draw nigh to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips. But what did Isaiah say in 29:13? Their hearts are far from me, right? So we want our hearts to be near to the Lord, right? Like he told us to do in, pull that real quick, Deuteronomy 10:16, right? We want to make sure our hearts are, you know what I'm saying, circumcised, like the Lord told us. Let's read that 10:16.
Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse number 16 says, circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked.
And be no more stiff-necked. We got to remember that, because at the end of the day, remember the words of the Lord are life. That's how we will live, right? That's the only way we can live in this world. If people that challenge this book and say, oh, they hate the book and stuff like that, they must not read it. Because when you read this book, all you find is life if you follow it. The Lord is giving us instructions, and like the brother Obadiah likes to say, who's also known as the Bible Prince if you follow his page, basic instructions before leaving earth. That's I guess you could say, acronym given to the Bible, but it actually makes sense when you really read it. Because the Lord is giving us basic instructions. Life ain't guaranteed to be everlasting, right? On this side. We're not guaranteed 50 million years. And I don't even know if you would want to live 50 million years in this wicked kingdom, right? But at the end of the day, if we follow the commandments of the Lord, if we hearken into his voice, then again, we shall live. Regardless if it's on this side or the next side, we're going to live. You know what I'm saying? If we do what he says. So that's a key thing to remember. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy let's go to Psalm 77, right? Psalm 77 and 11. I got 3 more precepts, we're done. Psalm 77 and 11.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 77, and verse number 11. I will remember the works of the Lord. I will remember the works of the Lord.
And we will remember the works of the Lord, man. We're going to remember how the Lord brought us out of Egypt and made us dwell in these booths. That's why we're going to sleep in this booth. These are 6 questions, man. 6 questions. We haven't got to the 6th question. We only answered 5. Who was it made for? What was it? What was the purpose of it? When should we keep it? Where? and why, right? We answered those, right? We'll get to the how, but before we get to the how, let's remember something, the works of the Lord, right? Let's finish that out.
From the top again, I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old.
Right. We're going to remember what the Lord did for us a while ago. But like he said in Jeremiah, like not even we said, like we read in Jeremiah, there's going to be a day where we're no longer talking about what he did of old, because it's going to be a new thing that he's going to do in the earth, and he's going to gather his people together. But in order to get to that point, we got to do the works that require us to be able to obtain that salvation, right? You can't earn a paycheck if you don't go to work. The same way you're not just going to get in the kingdom by just saying, hey, God, I believe. People think God is like Santa Claus on Polar Express, where the boy shook the jingle bell in his ear and said, I believe. And then he seen Santa. You know what I'm saying? That's how people think God is. But no, you got to actually put in work, right? Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse number 1, right? Ecclesiastes 12 and 1. These are the last two precepts. Well, I'm going to close out on one we read already, but these are the last two that are new and going to be introduced.
It's the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse number 1. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth,
Right.
while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them.
Right. We got to remember the days, we got to remember the Creator in our youthhood before we get introduced to evil, because a lot of times that's how we can protect ourselves. That's why the Lord told us in Deuteronomy 6, Deuteronomy 5, Deuteronomy 7, Deuteronomy 4, that we got to teach these commandments to our children. Because see, if we can teach our children to remember the commandments of the Lord while they're young, then guess what's going to happen? They're going to rise up a people that never really introduced themselves to evil. They're going to be able to cast out and handle evil things a lot better than we did, because we weren't introduced to it the same way they were, right? That's why the Lord told us to put evil away from among us. And the only way we can do that now is by raising our children up in the commandments of the Lord, by giving them the words of life. Not our words, but the words, thus saith the Lord, right? That's the only way we're going to be able to inherit that salvation, is by raising up that righteous generation. So we got to teach these commandments not only to ourselves, not only to our brethren, not only to our wives, but to our children as well, and their children, and their children's children, right? So on and so forth, right? Each one teach one, like they like to say in the word. Now, Ephesians 2 and 8, because this is going to answer how, right? Ephesians 2:8 and verse number 9. You're going to read both of those. This is going to answer how. How are we able to do this? You know, we've sinned. We've fallen short of the glory of the Lord. According to the law, you should be put to death. You Israelites, you Pharisees, right? You don't even understand the Bible that you read. But again, there's a just balance, right? Proverbs 11 and 1 says a false balance is an abomination unto the Lord. And we don't believe in a false balance. We don't believe in just work. Because we're going to be missing the greatest aspect of keeping this law, right? What you looking for? Ephesians, come. You can pull up your phone, BB. Come.
Ephesians chapter 2,
starting at verse 8.
and verse number 8. For by grace are ye saved through faith.
Through what?
For by grace are ye saved through faith.
Through our what?
For by grace are ye saved through faith.
Through faith, right? Through our faith, we're saved, right? Because of the grace of the Lord, right? It's because of the Lord's grace and mercy that we're able to keep these commandments. It has nothing to do with the amount of fringes that I got wrapped around my baseball jersey, right? It has nothing to do with the amount of Sabbaths I kept all my years of knowing that we should keep the Sabbath. It has everything to do with the grace of the Lord being able to preserve us alive to be able to keep these commandments. And through our faith in who the world calls Christ, we're able to use his life as an example to reverence the Most High's name forevermore, like we should have been doing from the get-go. But because that didn't happen, the Lord sent us a sacrifice. And because of that sacrifice, we're able to be free from what we call I guess you could say, the law of sin and death, like it reads in Romans 7, right? It's an important thing to understand. That's how we're able to do these things, right? We're also able to do it because not only did the Lord give us an opportunity to atone for our sins in the past, and we didn't die for it, but also because he gave us the ability to understand. One more extra precept. I'm sorry. I keep lying to y'all. Psalms 119 and 104, right? 119 and 104. Because if it wasn't for the Lord giving us an ear to hear these words, we wouldn't be doing this right now. Brothers could be doing anything. You know what I'm saying? We can be in all manner of folly and madness, but because the Lord gave us eyes to see and ears to hear, right? And because we read his precepts, right, we're able to understand. Let's read this.
This is Psalms chapter
119,
verse 104.
Uh-huh.
Through thy precepts I get understanding.
Uh-huh.
Therefore I hate every false way.
So it was because of the precepts of the Lord we got our understanding about who his people are, right? What we should be doing, right? The whole duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments, Ecclesiastes 12 and 13, right? So we got to focus on making sure that we're doing everything we can do to enter into the kingdom, because the only way we're going to enter into the kingdom is Revelation 14 and 12, right? Revelation 14 and 12.
Book of Revelation, chapter 14, verse number 12.
Uh-huh.
Here's the faces of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
So through the keeping of the commandments of the Lord and the faith in who the world calls Christ, right? That's how we're going to be able to be called the saints of God, to inherit the kingdom of God, right? But let's not overlook it. Again, it starts with doing the simple things and controlling what we can control, right? And the simple thing of controlling what we can control is understanding that if you got an opportunity to dwell in the booth for 8 days, why not do it? Unless you're locked up, then, hey, that's even more greater reason for when you're able to get out to, in the 15th day of the 7th month of the year, get your behind in the booth for 8 days, man. Reverence the Lord for that time, right? Offering oblation unto him. Because at the end of the day, it's by his grace and through our faith that we're able to do this, right? Let's close it out on Deuteronomy chapter 6, and let's read verse number 5 again, right? Deuteronomy 6 and 5. Matter of fact, read 4 and 5.
It's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse number 4.
Uh-huh.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
One Lord is Lord alone, none else, right? No other God beside him. Let's keep reading.
And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might.
Right. So, in closing, man, we need to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, and mind, right? It was Exodus 20 and 1 says, Exodus 20 and 3 says the same thing. I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? So that was commanded unto us. We got to remember to always keep God first, right? And the only way we can keep God first is by obeying his voice, obeying his commands. So, most high willing, you were edified throughout this lesson. That was just 6 questions to kind of be centered around why we dwell in booths. Why do we keep tabernacles, right? The purpose of it. If you have more questions, more information that's needed, hit the brothers up. If not, all praises to the Most High. Keep reading, keep researching. Through much prayer and fasting, the Lord will give you his understanding. Matter of fact, through his precepts, you'll get the understanding. But with that, we say shalom.
Shalom. Hey, y'all brothers stand up, and me and Obadiah sit down and blow the trumpet.
Here's the forecast for tomorrow in Warner Robins. Look for clouds and the chance of showers, with a high of 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's commanded on all of our Sabbaths and our feast days to blow the trumpet, so you may not have a trumpet of your own, so we'll blow the trumpet for you. And that way you can just play this whenever you keep the feast, and you'll keep the commandments, right?